So for the check-in, it says Marty drew 5 cards out of a bag, and it's -5, +3, +7, -1, +15. List the cards in order from greatest to least. So I'm going from greatest, from G to L, from greatest to least. Okay. So before I do anything, what I want to do is have you guys draw your number line so it can help us figure out our numbers from greatest to least. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plot them. Okay, so we're going to figure out where they are in the number line. So if I have my 0, right? And actually, before I do that, let me letter my numbers. So this one's A, this one's B, C, D, and E. Okay, so we can find those on the number line. So if this is my 0, okay, I'm going to go first from my -5. Okay, I know right here in between 0 and -2, this should be -1, -2, -3 right here, -4, and this one should be -5. So -5. And I'm going to plot my point, and I'm going to write A. Okay, now my 3, I'm going to go back to 0. Then I'm going to count to my +3, so I have to go to the right of the number line. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And 3 is right here, +3, and I'm going to label that right here. And this is where my letter B is at. Okay. Now C is +7, so I'm going to go back to 0. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7's right here. I'm going to circle it, and I'm going to write 7. Okay. And then this is my letter C. Okay. My 1, my -1 is going to go to the left of the number line. So I have 0, then it's -1 right here. And this one should be D. And then if I go back to 0, I'm going to go to +15. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 goes right here, 15. And that is my letter E. Okay. So it says here, think about if the number is getting smaller going farther to the left of 0. And we also have to think about if the number is getting bigger, so going farther from the right of 0. So remember in class, we talked about from 0, if I think about my numbers going this way, okay, 1 is bigger than 2. No, 2 is bigger than 1. So then if I were to think about who's bigger, 2 or 3? 3. Who's bigger, 3 or 4? 4. Who's bigger, 5 or 6? 6. So notice how all my numbers going to the left gets big. And then all my numbers, if I were to count backwards, right? Actually, before I continue with that thought, I had just said all my numbers to the right are getting bigger. So if I were to think about my negative numbers, right, I have -2 and -1. -1 is bigger because it's closer to 0. And if I compare -2 to -4, right, -2 is larger in value because it's closer to 0. Because remember, if I'm going farther to the right, it's getting big. So now if I were to go backwards, right, from 18, this should be 17, right? Who's smaller, 18 or 17? 17. Then if I were to go from 17 to 16, who's smaller? 16. So notice if I were to keep on going with that pattern, once I get to my negatives, who's smaller, -1 or 0? -1. If I were to compare -2 and -4, -4 is smaller. If I were to compare -4 and -5, -5 is smaller. So over here, everything is smaller. Smaller. Okay. So if I'm going from greatest to least, I'm going to go backwards. So then I'm just going to copy how I plotted it. So it's going to be 15, 7, 3, -1, and -5. Okay, so this is going from greatest to least. Okay, and this right here would be my answer.